Welcome to this week's edition of Rugby Unfiltered. I'm your host, Jan de Koning, and the very knowledgeable Eugene Eloff. Loffie, welcome.
I thank you, Jan. And after a weekend of ups and downs in terms of South African rugby, highs and lows, and that is rugby. That's one thing you can never hide from. Things don't always go the way you planned, but as long as you learn from it. But I'm looking forward going ahead.
Eugene, the cynic in me wants to ask the question, is Ackerman learning how to lose? But he's actually such a nice guy that it's a nasty way. But the sad thing is, I mean, he lost 2 Super Rugby finals. He's now lost the URC final. You can't always just blame the coach. Sometimes it's the players. And I mean, the scoreline says it all. 36-7 to Leinster. Yes, it was at Croke Park. It was in Dublin. Leinster is basically Ireland. And to me, the Bulls just didn't pitch. You know, we saw that. We spoke about this when the Lions lost 2 Currie Cup finals. You know, the players, it's almost like they're just going through the motions. And it's the same thing that happened last year, but under a different coach. So now you got to ask the question, is it the players? But all these players, they can't be bad players. They maybe just had a bad day at the office. They can't be bad players because 12 of these guys that played in that final are now in the Springbok squad. So, you know, what Ackerman selected, Rassie also selected. He's building, the bulk of his team comes from the Bulls, the Sharks, and the Stormers. You know, there's 28 players from those 3 franchises. So if 20, more than half of your team comes from those 3 franchises and one of them played in the final and lost, then maybe we know nothing and those coaches know something that we don't know.
No, Jan, it's what we also discussed. You know, if you're going to a final, it's a new game. It's a once-off, and it will be very, very unfair, unwise for us to blame Johan Ackerman. Johan Ackerman has only been with that team a few months, or this year, or a year, and one should not look into history too much to say you've lost so much finals, and I think it's unfair. I think Johan already changed the culture there, changed a lot of things. There was very positive momentum, and you know, sometimes and there's a lot of reasoning. The players didn't pitch, things didn't happen, but if you look at the match itself, you know, it was one of those matches that nothing happened for the Bulls, but they were not out of it. If Pollard's kick just before halftime maybe it was infield, they could drive and score, their tails would have been up going into halftime. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. And you know what? You can only control the controllables. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. I know the Bulls supporters are very disappointed. And I can guarantee you the players are disappointed. And I can guarantee you the coaches are disappointed. You can do nothing about it. It's one of them that have gone. And I thought about it as well, Jan. It could be that in the back of their head, some of the players that were already known that they were selected for the box could have been afraid for getting injuries and so forth. But I don't think that's the truth. I just think on the day, unforced mistakes, bad decision-making, bad execution just cost him. And the quicker they put that to bed and carry on and build on what they started building at the Bulls, the better. And don't take anything away from Leinster. They were playing out of their skin, and you know, Jameson Gibson and James Lowe and those guys, they really stepped up to the plate. And their flyer that has been having a terrible season was man of the match. So that's rugby, and that's why we love the game and why it's so entertaining. As disappointing as it was for the supporters in South Africa, not the coaches to blame.
Yeah. On that point, Eugene, moving on, I think let's move on to Rassie's Springbok team. On Saturday night, day after the final, he named, and after the Springboks beat the Barbarians. I mean, there's not much we can say about an 80-31 game. You know, defense wasn't a priority. It wasn't at a premium, and the guys were really working. You know, I mean, the poor Barbarians, you know, you got 3 days to practice and you play against a team that's been in camps and has been training. So after that, Rassie named a 46-man squad for the Nations Championship, which kicks off next week, Saturday. Next week we'll talk about the games itself. But I want to unpack Russia's team. 46 players. That's 3 teams, starting teams, and then you can probably pick another 10 or 15 players that are either injured or for some other reason not available at the moment. Or and suddenly Russia's got 4 teams that I wouldn't say they're all of equal strength, but pretty near each other. Like number 1 and 2 will definitely be pretty close to each other, and then it'll taper off a bit. But I think the enormous talent at disposal in South African rugby is actually frightening if you come from another country. If you can put 4 teams in the field that can play Test rugby, if you look at South Africa A, we put 40-0 past Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is going to the World Cup. That's a World Cup team. And a bunch of South Africa under-20s put 40 points past Zimbabwe. That says a lot about the depth of talent we have in this country.
Yeah, Sean, I'm glad you're talking about that. And I want to go to that game first. We've got incredible young players coming through the system, and some of them have been awarded now to be with the senior group or the Springboks. They will not be joining the junior box, but also, listen, there are 2 things that we need to say to each other. Zimbabwe can go to the World Cup. They're gonna get klopped there big time. So I would not read too much in both those games. First of all, Zimbabwe didn't look conditioned. They didn't have any profile of a team that's going to the World Cup. I don't know if that's their World Cup squad, but if it is, they're in big trouble. But to me, the exciting thing was to see the young talent coming through. Going to the Springbok A side, the Springbok side itself, and the Barbarians. Jan, you know what? And I know laws are there to be applied by referees, but one thing that I thought in this game, which is actually just the exhibition game, they should have left the cards in their pockets and maybe given warnings and stuff. And I thought giving those cards put a bit of a damper on the game. And again, I'm also saying what you're saying, that this Barbarians team is not one of the, and they scored a few great tries, is not a pedigree Barbarian side like we know it. And I would not read too much in our results of that game, although it would have shown Rossi, would have shown him what he needs to know about certain new players coming into the system.
Eugene, I agree. I just want to stop before we move on to the actual Bok team. I just want to stop for a second at the Zimbabwe team. One of the props that came off the bench plays his club rugby for False Bay here in Cape Town in the Western Province Super League. Now, that's a club player, so at best, that Zimbabwe team is a Currie Cup team, or as it was there, I would suggest that it's a first division team that should play that's about the level of Eastern Province and the Falcons and Boland and those teams. So it really is no more than a provincial team. And I mean, I can't see them winning too many Currie Cup games or too many games against Currie Cup teams. So, there were some club players in there. So, but that's a by and by. So let's move on to Russia's team. I think the important thing is, and we're talking about depth. I think if we go look, I'll take it position for position, Eugene. We start with the props. I mean, when you got props like Thomas du Toit, Wilco Louw, Kalu Sadi, Mchunu Nkunu, Oxenche, Zachary Porton, Gerard Steenekamp, and Bone Venter. That's our front row, just our straight up front row, not even our utility front row. I mean, most countries will give their left arm just to have 3 of those props or 2 of those props. And we got 3 front rows, fully fledged front rows that can scrum any scrum in the world.
Absolutely. And some of those players can play tight head and loose head, like Thomas du Toit. It's great to see Carlos Sadi on top of his game. He's really looking in shape. And tight head is always a problem. And, once France was injured, I thought we might have a problem. We got no problem. I agree with you. We got great depth and strength in our front row, in the props.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And like you say, both sides. So, I mean, Zachary Porton, the baby Bok from last year, he can also play both sides. So you've got some really good, and that's where we've got to give Rossi credit. He's got players and he's busy building, and we'll get through these utility players. So if something happens, he's got cover. So if we go to the hookers, we've got the regulars. Johan Grobler, who's busy establishing himself. Malcolm Marx, a double World Cup winner. And Andre Hugo Venter. Now, Andre Hugo Venter is interesting for me. So for those that don't know it yet, Andre Hugo Venter is dating Rassie's daughter. And that's not the reason why he's there. He's there because he's a good player.
Yes, Jan. Yeah, a lot of people, I know why you brought that up. You're a typical media guy that will just, if you go look at the hookers in our country, that most probably is a position we might lack a bit of depth for the next generation coming through. And on grounds of performance of the past few seasons, he needs to be there. And that the hookers that are there are the guys in the seat. But I think also that our selectors will already start looking at the next generation coming through at hooker, because as you also know, hooker is a critical position in a team.
Yeah, I think it would be amiss of me to not mention that guys like Frans Malherbe and Bongi Nambi, who haven't played for months, well, Frans not for over a year, and Bongi, who's been struggling all year as well. That doesn't make them bad players, but they've got injuries, and it's injuries that's cast a shadow over their future. Will we ever see them back? It's a question. It's a legitimate question to ask. Will we see Frans back? Will we see Bongi back? We don't know. We hope that they live comfortable lives and that they don't carry long-term problems with their injuries into their life after rugby. But to get back to hooker, we've got utility, and this is where Rassie is at his best. So we've got those three hookers. Then we've got two utility forwards, Marco van Staden and Jan-Hendrik Wessels. Now, Marco can play loose forward or hooker, and he does it often for the Bulls. He's been playing off the Bulls bench almost the whole season. And then he comes on as a loose, he comes on as a hooker depending on the need. And Jan-Hendrik Wessels, who can play hooker and prop. And you can even, and believe it or not, at school he played number 4 lock. So he can, he's probably a bit of a big boy to be lifted in the lineouts, but he can scrum down in the scrums as a lock. So those are the utility forwards. So already your hookers go down to 5 levels again. So we just looked at the props now, at least 3 or 4 levels of front rows that we've got. If you add the hookers, we've got 4 or 5 levels of hookers. So, it's absolutely amazing the depth we have. And we'll come back to this throughout this podcast. The sheer amount of depth that South Africa rugby has, that's the envy of the world.
Yes, I agree. And it's clear that the utility that are there is for prop and flank and nothing else.
Eugene, then if we move on to the locks, I mean, you got Lode Jager is back. How long he will stay fit is a question mark. I just hope for his sake he stays fit and goes to the World Cup. He deserves another shot at the World Cup. Eben Etzebeth is back, even though he was rested last week, him and Ruan. I apologize, him and Lode. And then Ruan Orkeer, who's been playing very well for the Bulls. And then obviously Ruben van Heerden. So yes, the bolter is Ruben van Heerden. I think that's another player who's in a position where we look a bit thin, has played well for a very long time and deserves his chance.
Absolutely, Jan. I've been following his career since his school days at Office and at the Stormers. And Ruben is just one of those guys. He quietly does his stuff, does the hard yards, and I think he'll be a massive attribute to the lock pairing we have there. And it's also good for a player that works so hard that he gets recognition for what he's done off the field and on the field.
Yeah. I'm going to stop at the utility forwards just now after we've done with the loose forwards. If it looks like we're thin on locks, rest assured, Rassie's got plans. So I think let's move on to the loose forwards, Eugene. Paul de Villiers, a guy who deserves a shot. He had a really good season. BJ Dixon, a player that can also perhaps at times slot into, but he's there as a flank in Rassie's squad. Cameron Hanekom, Siya Kolisi, who's our captain. Evan Riss, another player who's getting another shot and maybe must use it this time because, he's been in and out. He's just never cemented his place. Now he's got 3 big test matches to cement his place. Vincent Tsutuka, a player that I really like, a very fiery player and a player that can also play at lock in the need of if you're desperate. And Jasper Wiese. So again, we've got so much depth and some new players coming through.
Yes, I think with that, Lucy's, I agree. I'm very happy for Paul. He's one of our top students at Stadio. And Ivan, sometimes you just need a break at the right time. You actually learn by your mistakes in the first few matches you play. He is a workhorse, but the guy that stood out this weekend was Jasper Wiese. Um, he just played. He's actually taking the role of Dwayne Vermeulen. He's doing it so well. He was my man of the match, and of course Cameron Hanekom, who I've always rated, really played his heart out on Friday evening. So I think that's a good mix of loose forwards that can also, as you mentioned, some of them can play in other positions as lock, Dixon, and so on. So yeah, I think that's a good mix of players all on form.
Let's move on to the utility forwards. So this is the important thing for me. So we get three players here that can play flank and lock and have done it for the Springboks. So we've got Pieter-Steph du Toit, who's our standout number 7 for the last 4 years, since 2019 already. And, he was a man in the final. We remember his 28 tackles in a World Cup final in 2023. And then we've got Franco Mossad, who often flips between lock and flank for the Boks. And then my favorite utility forward is Riley Nortje, the baby Bok captain. So the South African under-20 team had to select a new captain because Riley has been pulled up to the Springboks as a utility forward. And Rassie has spoken about, and he has been bulking up. I mean, we spoke about it before. He has been bulking up. So Rassie is probably grooming him as a utility number 7. Play at number 7, play in because he's a line-out caller as well. So he's a very good line-out caller. So, I mean, there already you've got another 3 players who can fill in at lock. And Riley's played at lock for us this past weekend, and he did not look out of place.
Riley Norton is a very, very special player. And a lot of people will feel, and I will be one of them, that said he's a bit young to go and slot into the tight 5, but he played one hell of a game. For a first match, he stood up, he showed a lot of maturity, and I can see what Rassie sees in the aura around him. And I congratulate him with his first game, and he also deserves to be there. So yeah, I think that's such a good mix of players. Again, if I use the word mix, that you can use and you can shuffle, and you can always know Rassie will shuffle things, and he will surprise opponents how they shuffles them.
Yeah, we spoke earlier about the utility value of Marco van Staden and Jan-Hendrik Wessels, but to finish off the utility section, Cobus Wiese. Rassie tried him at number 8 in one test last year. To use a phrase Rassie often likes to use is, he didn't shoot the lights out, but I don't think he disgraced himself. And we know him as a lock at the Bulls, so he plays lock for the Bulls. He very seldom plays loose forward for the Bulls. But another player who you can try at loose forward, if he's short of number 8 or maybe number 7, he's a bit bulky for number 7, but a great number 4 lock and number 8.
I agree with you. Those Wieses have just got DNA in the body, both of them, and both of them have added a lot of value and young enough that they can still play a few years. And again, I think Rassie is just giving guys the opportunity that played well throughout the past year and seasons.
Yeah, I think if we move on to the back line, we start with the scrum halves. I mean, Emrose Papier, well deserved. Herschel Jantjies, been a while since he's been there. We know what he did in an earlier test. He also had a dip in form, and Rassie had a good look at him and decided to bring him back. Cobus Reinach is back, although he's probably not going to play till the All Blacks arrive. Grant Williams, which is probably now our starting number 1. And, that already. Rassie likes to have at least 4 scrum halves in, and he's quite open about it. He likes to have at least 4 scrum halves in his squad. And there you have it. And then you've still got guys like Faf de Klerk, who played this past weekend and didn't disgrace himself. And then you've got Jaden Hendricks, who unfortunately is still injured and struggling with injury. So again, we're not short of depth, and we got some really good players. Yeah.
Yes, Jan. Like hookers, scrum halves is a specialist position, and you need enough depth. And with all those names you just named there are great players. And don't forget, if you take one step back, you got Pete, who played in the SA side, and you got Imad Khan, the next two generation coming through. So yeah, we got good depth on scrum half.
Yeah. I think fly off is perhaps the one position where people might wonder. But I mean, we've got amazing players, and we Quinn Horn this past weekend is in the squad, and we'll get to him later. So we got Manie Lobok, who will probably start against England. Vusi Moya, which is the next big thing. I mean, everybody raves about him, and I think he had a really, when he came on at the weekend, he did really well. And then obviously Andre Pollard, everybody's can say, what is Andre still doing there? His form is too old. They can say all these things. The reality is he's won 2 World Cups. And in the previous World Cup, we were struggling. Manie allowed the clock and the kicking and the goal kicking to get into his head, and that started affecting the rest of his game. And Rassie did one of his master strokes, when Malcolm Marx got injured, he decided not going to call up. He's going to use whatever he's got in the squad. He needs another fly-off, and he brought Pollard back after Pollard missed the start of the tournament because he wasn't fit enough after an injury. And Pollard won the World Cup for us. So to use an old cliche, we know exactly what we have in Andre Pollard. He's a class player, and to have him around players like Manie and Vusi will be amazing. I mean, those youngsters can learn from him. Manie is not exactly a youngster, but Manie can still learn from Pollard about being calm and how to stay. There's a lot of things. Learning from a senior is not necessarily just about how to play the game. It's about how to conduct yourself, how to deal with the build-up, how to deal with the stress, all those sort of things. And Pollard is one of those guys that doesn't ever seem to get stressed.
Yeah, you don't judge him on this weekend that just passed, what happened against Leinster. Rassie will pick his guys that he knows when the pressure's up, they will be firing. And I can understand why Pollard's in the group, and I would have also picked him. And then, of course, I'm bringing in the youth all time. Then you got Yakin Ahmed, who played brilliantly for the SA side with Vusi. Yeah, we got great fly-off. So it's going to be interesting who puts up his hand to take the slot as a starting fly-off for the test series. Of course, you'll also pick your horses for courses. Depends who you play and how you're going to play. But those are the fly-offs that we have currently in our country.
Yeah. Centers, Russia's just got 3 centers, but a whole bunch of utility backs. So he's got Damien de Allende, Andre Esterhuizen, who probably both fight for the number 12 jersey, and Jesse Creel, which is 13. So we already know he's got other players, and we'll get to the utility players now to cover center. So yes, those are our 3 centers, but I think they're well established and by some distance the best in the country and perhaps even in the world.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I've got a feeling Damien de Allende looks hungry to play. So it's going to be interesting. He most probably will slot in at 12, and Andre Esterhuizen's there. And Jesse's, but as you said, we can discuss now the utilities that we have, some of the outside backs that can cover some of those positions. So yeah, we got enough depth there as well. But those are the on-form guys at inside center and outside center. But again, we didn't mention a guy like Canan Moodie, but we're going to talk about him now.
Yeah, he's under the utility list. So Russian in his announcement, he said outside backs and utility players. So this is where it gets very interesting. So I'm first going to read the players, and then we can discuss the individuals or the positions. So you've got Kurt Lee Arendse, Apelele Fassi, Quinn Horn, Cheslin Colby, Canan Moodie, Edwil van der Merwe, Jaco Williams, Damian Willemse. Now, we know that Damian Willemse can play fly-off and inside center. We know that Damian Willemse can play fullback. So that covers already 3 positions. Kurt Lee probably covers wing. Fassi is fullback. Quinn Horn started fly-off this past weekend. Like I said, he didn't disgrace himself. And he's a good fullback. So, there's so much that covers another fly-off position. And then Cheslin Colby has played fly-off for his club in Japan. And at the weekend, he took the goal kicking. At the weekend, even after a cameraman decided to charge at him on the field. I've got the video, and I've got a video on our channel about the cameraman that got a bit overexcited or was just an idiot. I don't know. He's not even supposed to be near the playing field. He's going to be 5 meters away. So I don't know what he did there. But anyway, so Cheslin carried on playing very well, even after he got bowled over by the cameraman. And then you got Kane and Moody, which we said, which is one of our options at outside centre. That's why Lukanya Am is not there, because we got Kane and Moody that's coming through. You know, again, a youngster that's displacing a thing. And then obviously Cheswell and Jaco Williams. Jaco Williams is also a utility in terms of fullback. He can play wing and he can play fly off. I mean, at a push, he can play fly off. And then obviously Damon Williams, so we discussed.
Yeah, Jan, even more so, I'd like to see QAnon at 13. I've got a feeling he'll cause havoc there. And Cheslin can play scrum off if the pressure's up. He can play fly off. He can play anything in the back line. And even Fussy would be able to cover 13. So I think our outside backs are pretty much covered. Most probably one will have to look at your mix when you pick a side who's going to do the goal kicking, because that in Test rugby, that's very important that you have a consistent goal kicking. And now we know, I mean, Colby kicked so well, and I feel for him for the cameraman. I can understand why he was so excited, because his first kick was in the corner, from the corner, kicked it center. So yeah, we're very much covered in all positions.
I agree. What we do need to touch on, you spoke about Jason Colby and all the positions he can play. We mustn't forget that in a test, he's already thrown in the line-out, which I don't think he'll ever scrum at hooker, but he can throw in the line-out. And believe it or not, he's been lifted in the line-out to catch a line-out ball. I know it's all trick plays, but, you know, so Cheslin is the smallest guy in the team, has already played in two of the most physical positions, hooker and lock. But that's just my bad dad joke for the day.
Now, you know, Jan, sometimes coaches do stuff like that. I remember Laurie Mains using Werner Swanepoel with a scrum half to contest, and he took the locks to take him up. I mean, he got so high, he took every ball when we contested. So it's a tactical ploy by the coaches. He's just such a versatile player and brings so much to the team. You know, I think he brings a lot of energy to the team and a lot of backup.
Well, Eugene, there we have it. I mean, that's an amazing Springbok team. Like I said, next week we'll talk about the matches themselves. I mean, we've got such a full program already. I just think it's such an amazing team. I'm so excited for the test to start. You know, we spoke about where we would like to see Quinn Horn, who can play hooker, prop, lock. So I'm just very excited about the test season.
Yeah, me too, Jan. I think the whole country is, everybody is sort of waiting. But on that note, I want to tell you that coming back to the World Cup, I'm very concerned about the format of the World Cup. And I'm a bit off the point now. If teams like Portugal, Romania, Zimbabwe go to the World Cup, I think it's losing flavor and structure. So as you know, that new competition, North-South, I think that's going to be the next thing to follow. But Jan, we can't wait for the test series. We can't wait to see the All Blacks play, because if you watch the game, the Hurricanes against the Chiefs, the All Blacks are going to have a good team.
Well, Eugene, as a goodbye, we have something lined up that will analyze the All Black team for us and also look towards the Nations Championship next week. So yeah, if you want to if you don't want to miss a really good program, chat to us next week when we unpack the All Black team.
Okay, yes, Jan, I agree. So yeah, thank you very much for your insight in the Springbok team again. And from myself, Lofi, and Jan de Koning, I say goodbye.
Tot volgende week. Cheers.